Всем салют! Мы находимся на студии звукозаписи «Волна». Меня зовут Денис, а это мои друзья Паша и Леша. Сегодня у нас в гостях замечательный гость, бас-гитарист группы Sum 41 Коун McSaslin. Hi, Коун!
Hey, how you doing?
Также хочу выразить огромную благодарность российскому фан-сообществу Sum 41, а также паблику Интересный Панк за сотрудничество. Ребята, огромное вам спасибо. Что ж, передаю слово парням. Всем приятного просмотра.
Okay, thanks for actually getting in touch with us, for having time to speak to us, because we actually been waiting for a long time to have this conversation with you. We been trying to put our schedule in the right time, and it's really great feeling to see you as a live version. It's really incredible feeling. So, what's up in Canada? How it feels like to be you today?
Yeah, it's well, as we all know, at different times right now. I mean, we got off tour in around March or late February, and I've just been kind of home doing, just being a dad. I have two kids, so I moved, so I've been busy, moving and all that kind of stuff. But COVID-19's kind of just restricted everything we do, even in Canada. Even Canada's not doing super bad with COVID. I mean, it's still here, but we're kind of managing not too bad. Not as bad as the U.S. But we still have a lot of restrictions, and it's still pretty scary. People are still freaked out. So there's not a lot to do. So I just kind of concentrate on being a dad right now, and when they go to bed, I play music.
How much time were you actually on tour before the COVID happened?
Well, our last album, Order and Decline, it came out in July, and I think we started touring that year, maybe around March or April, and then we, right into the release of Order and Decline, and then we did a U.S. tour in the fall, and then we came over to Europe in January, February. Now we actually had a lot more plans, to tour. We were supposed to do 2 months in Europe this summer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were coming to Russia. Yeah.
Park Life.
That's
venue.
right, Park Life. I was really looking for. I think My Chemical Romance was supposed to do that too. So that would have been a great one. So yeah, I mean, we had this whole year was supposed to be touring for us. We were supposed to go to Mexico, Europe, as I was saying. We were supposed to go to Australia with the Offspring. So that all just got scratched just in an instant. But so hopefully we can do it next year. Hopefully we'll make it up next year.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds really super busy touring all around the world. And actually, when you would do a normal tour, would you dream of such thing as to be with your family, be with your kids for some time? Did you enjoy it for a little bit, this period?
Yeah, it's also different, because in my life since I was 19 years old, I've just been always touring constantly all the time. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment to just be home and have really nothing to look forward to touring wise. Like there's nothing on our schedule. There's nothing like, oh, I'm going away in November or I'm going away in December. There's none of that. It's just I'm home indefinitely until COVID-19 is under control, which is a weird feeling. Kind of sucks in a way.
We get it totally. Yeah.
Yeah, but also, to be able to be home with my kids, which I don't really get to do all that often, is great as well. So it's good and it's bad. So I'm just kind of living the dad life right now, the family life, which I'm really liking. And I love my kids obviously, so I like to be around them.
So love is your remedy, right?
What's that?
Love is your remedy. That's how you deal with this.
Yeah.
Good. We also have music and your music too. What kind of music are you listening to this period of time?
You know what? A lot of old stuff, because my like I said, I moved, and my grandfather, who passed away last year, left me this old record player, like from the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And then so I've had all these old records that my dad's given me and my grandfather gave me. So I've just been kind of slowly going through all these old records, and every night at dinner I would just put on a new record of old stuff like old Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. Today I was listening to like an old Iggy Pop record. I listened to The River by Bruce Springsteen the other night. You know, old Bob Dylan
He's
records.
great.
Yeah,
Listening
so
to vinyl records, sorry for interrupting. Listening to vinyl records is kind of a ritual, don't you think? That's it puts much more weight to the act of listening rather than scrolling your Facebook and listening to music or whatever Spotify.
Yeah, to me, it's a different experience because if you're putting a record on to listen to the record, for one, it sounds a lot different to me because it's got the crackles and on this record player, it doesn't have as much low end. It's like because it's from the '50s, so it's not like they're not great speakers. They're just they're just speakers. But you're actually listening to a whole record and you're paying attention to every song. Whereas like you said on Spotify, you just let it roll and song to song to song, and sometimes you're not even paying attention; it's just in the background.
Yeah, you're kind of listening a playlist, not a
Yeah.
You're liking the physical aspect. I think it's crucial.
Yeah.
So, let's get to our first set of questions, shall we?
Sure. Yeah.
It wasn't really like a separate set of questions. We kind of covered the whole topic of COVID thing, and you told us kind of a lot. But I personally wanted to ask you one thing about it. I'm sure that you know that many songwriters, many bands now very feeling this moment. They are having many songs being written, and they're releasing new albums totally dedicated to this period, to this COVID. You know, all types of artists like Moby, Robbie Williams, whoever you like. What are your plans about it? Are you going to reflect this time in your music?
I don't know. We haven't really spoken about it as a band, to be honest, to do any kind of songs or anything special for this time period. See, the thing for us next year is it's the 25th anniversary of our band.
It's bigger.
Yeah. So and it's also the 20th anniversary of our album All Killer No Filler.
Yeah.
So next year is like kind of a special year. There might be new music next year, but we're also contemplating the fact that we don't need to put anything new because we have like an anniversary year coming up for the record. So we haven't really spoken too much about new music lately. But there's always writing going on, and Derek's the main songwriter. I'm sure he's writing a bunch all the time, and yeah. So I mean, there'll be new music at some point, but I'm not really sure when.
That's really good. I really like this approach, and sometimes I feel like people are trying to hype on this thing a little bit, just to be in the moment. Yeah, a bit unintentionally maybe, but
I don't think that's.
Who knows?
But that's another question. So what I was
the thing is about writing a song about this time period to me is like you'll always have that song around for the next 30 years, and you'll look back and be like, I hated that. I hated that time. I don't want to be reminded of this time.
There's kind of an interesting perspective on it.
Yeah.
So, as a Russian community, as Russian fans, most of them don't really know English very well. So a lot of interviews. They don't watch a lot of interviews of Sum 41. So let's talk about the basics. And I know you answered this question many times, but how did Sum 41 actually come up to be? How did you guys meet, and how you personally got into the band?
Yeah, well, we all met when we were young, like 14 years old. We were all in when we went into high school, grade 9. We all were basically the same age except for our original drummer, Steve. He was a year younger. But we were all in different bands. Like every single one of us, we were all in different kinds of bands. And so we all met in grade 9. And then we started playing shows together. Like we would play these little basement parties as our own bands. And then eventually, one by one, Derek and Steve, they started Sum 41 in 1996. And then eventually they needed a guitar player, and they asked Dave for a long time. But Dave was really into metal, and he didn't really want to leave that kind of thing. And eventually, Dave came over to Sum 41, and then a year later, their bass player quit, and they asked me to fill in, and that was like 1998, the end of 1998, and I started filling in a couple shows, and I realized that I liked it more than my band that I was in previously. And we were playing more shows. Like Sum 41 seemed like a band that wanted to play shows all the time, and actually had a plan. And I liked the energy of the music. It was really fast and energetic. And so I made a teenager's tough decision to like leave my high school band that I'd been in since I was 14, and I was with my two other best friends in it. And I had to tell them, I'm quitting this band. I'm going to join Sum 41. And from 1998, late 98 to now, and this is how it's been.
Yeah, I kind of feel you on that moment that leaving your best buds behind, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, it was strange. It seems like an easy decision to make now because Sum 41, like we've done well and we've toured, and but at the time, being a teenager, being 18 years old, and you have it like you have this band with your two best friends, it was like a very, very emotional decision
heartfelt
for me.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of had that moment too in my life.
Yeah.
So I kind of phased out a little bit.
When you were a teenager, did you have any idea that it could be, the Sum 41 as a big band? Any idea about this?
Well, and I don't think I would have thought that I would have got to this point. But I remember when I joined, and one of the reasons I did join Sum 41 was because, like I said, like there was a vision, like, and Derek is a very driven person, and I could see that in the band, and I could see that in Steve and Dave and everyone in Sum 41. Before I joined, I could just tell they really wanted to do it. They really wanted to like take it as far as they could, and they wanted to get signed. They wanted to go on tour. They wanted to make albums, and that was all the things I wanted to do. So I don't like if you would have asked me at 18, do you think you guys are going to sell this many albums and tour the world? I would have probably said no. There's no way. But we're just one of the lucky bands that got to do it, and we worked really hard to do it, and it's pretty crazy to think what we've done up until this point.
Yeah, it's really cool. And they say that it's very weird to me, but people often say that if you're not making it when you're, say, 25 or until you're 23 years old, you're never gonna make it. Can you agree with that, or it's not true?
No, I don't think that's true. I think even more so today, age doesn't really matter as much. There was a time when, even when we were coming up in the early 2000s, it seemed like all the new bands and all the bands that were becoming big were pretty young, like either late teens or early 20s, like us at the time. But now I feel like, age doesn't really come into the equation much these days, and I think it has to do with probably no more MTV. There's no more TV stations that are playing bands, and so they're not glamorizing. No one's glamorizing appearances much on TV.
Yeah, you can maybe start your own career.
Yeah, you can be a producer
if you have something to say, if you have something to think about, you have the whole world as your platform.
Sounds
exactly,
very optimistic, yeah.
Yeah, you make your own YouTube channel and you just do it yourself. Rather, when we were coming up, it was MTV and Much Music, and they chose what went on their station. And it seemed like it was more of like the younger generation that they were playing because, I don't know, maybe they just liked the look of us or whatever that was, or they liked the youthful aspect of the bands. But now, now that that's no longer, age doesn't matter.
Yeah, it kind of matters in Russia, but in reverse, because most of rock-oriented radio stations are kind of favorite to the older audiences.
It's about audience, not about
Yeah, kind
about
of.
singers.
Yeah. So, you've been playing for about 5 years when you joined Sum 41, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Did you start on bass or you picked up a guitar?
Yeah, I started on bass out of necessity because the band that I was talking about before, I wanted to join. They had everyone in the band except the bass player. So it was basically a stipulation of I was like, guy, but I really want to join your band. And they're like, well, if you're going to join the band, you have to play the bass because we have everything except the bass player. And I was like, well, what the fuck's a bass? And so I had to basically kind of research on what a bass guitar was. And I went to like the local music store and like asked the guys like, hey, I need a bass. And the guy was just like, it's over there. I was like, I'll take it. And then I just started playing.
So, and what kind of music did you listen to when you were inspired to pick up a bass and join a band?
I mean, at the time, it was a lot of like the grunge era. It was because it was 1994, and well, not yeah, 93 going into 94, and so it was a lot of Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr.,
Mm-hmm.
Soundgarden,
Yeah, no,
um, all
classic
that.
bands, classic bands.
Yeah, those were the bands that really got me into playing music.
Um, so, did you took lessons or you just learned bass by yourself?
Yeah, mostly I tried to take lessons. I took maybe 2 or 3, and I didn't really like it, so I just stopped and decided to just do it on my own.
Was it easy without internet?
Yeah, there was no internet back then.
Was it easy?
Oh, was it easy?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say it was easy, especially for a beginner, because there's no YouTube tutorials on how to like play
Absolutely,
certain
yeah.
things. So you really are learning by ear. Um, and yeah, I mean, but I think it makes you a better musician in the long run, maybe instead of cheating and just going on being like, oh, okay, this guy can just show me how to do it.
Yeah, it's
Now
kind of
it's
an
like
advantage.
trying to figure it out on your own maybe takes a little longer, but probably better for you in the long run.
Yeah, it's really important to develop your ear earlier in your playing because then you can just follow it
Yes.
on your instrument. So,
Yeah, definitely.
before you joined Sum 41, what did you want to become? Maybe what kind
A
of
teacher,
yeah, what did you want to become?
fireman.
I don't know. When I joined Sum 41, I was applying to college at the time. I was applying to a radio station or work at a TV station as like, the background, like an engineer or audiovisual guy or, something to do with that kind of stuff. But I got rejected by every college because my marks, my grades weren't very good. So, which I kind of lucked out on. So yeah, I was kind of going into that field. Would have
Yeah.
been just like the background stuff, engineering and stuff like that.
But still, it's entertainment industry.
Yeah, same kind of thing.
So, speaking about the upcoming of the band, it's been 4 years before you actually made it signed with an Island Records, right?
We signed in 1999.
So, what I'm really interested in, what life was before you, I don't know, made it, quote unquote.
What before we got signed?
Yeah. What your concerts looked like? How many people showed up?
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to a lot of like young bands in high school. It was very very few people. We would play even after we were signed. Because no one really knew us. We would go on tour. We played from in front of 5 people, or we'd play in front of 25 people. If we were lucky enough to open for another band, then we play in front of more people. But if it was just our show, yeah, it was not a lot of people there because no one knew who we were. In the Toronto area, and where we were from, Ajax, we were starting to build a little bit of a following. So by the end of our first album, Half Hour Power, we could fill in Toronto like 300 people.
Yeah.
So that was
Really
like
not bad,
it was awesome. Like we thought we were like we that's it, we're good. That's all we need. Because that to us, at 19, 20 years old, I mean, that was huge for us. 300 people coming to see our little band.
Well, that's actually quite an achievement. In 4 years, most bands in Russia end up where they start. Playing
I want to say the same thing.
Maybe
Yes,
10, 15 people.
if you can make it 1,000, they are stars really.
Yeah.
Prominent groups, prominent bands in Russia. Yes.
1,000 people.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, right. So, and how did you guys? I know, but for our audience, how did you actually get in touch with Island Records, and how did you get signed, and what were your feelings about it? Did you just sign the contract right away, or maybe there was some thinking inside the band?
Yeah, it was a long process. We were playing a bunch of shows every week, and labels would come up and see us play. And we narrowed it down. Well, I mean, before that, so the backstory to getting signed was we would send out demos to labels of our songs, and it'd be like "Makes No Difference" and "Summer" and all these songs that we had, and all these labels were passed. They just didn't want to sign us for months and months, and so we're like, oh fuck, now what are we gonna do? So then we ended up making videos. And it was like videos of us going around our hometown and, kind of terrorizing our hometown, egging houses, squirt gunning people on the street. Just like little teenage, we were just like little teenage shitheads, and then so we put all this footage together, edited it together, and then we put our songs behind it, the same songs that all the labels didn't like before, and so we sent out this video. It was like 8 minutes long, and all of a sudden now they loved it.
Wow.
I guess it's because they saw personality or something, So all these labels started coming up to see us, and after I don't know, a month and a half of playing in front of all these labels, Island just seemed like the best fit. We really liked the people at Island and their team and everything like that. So we ended up signing with Island.
Wow, who actually thought of that idea? It's kind of a very simple but genius idea, because when people see you on tape, they actually see characters. They see how you can I don't know
Who
go
really
crazy
are, because people are actually visual.
So who came up with that idea?
I can't remember. I think we are doing all that stuff anyway. Like we were just, like I said, we are shitheads, and we were doing this anyway. We just decided we should just film this. Why don't we just film it? And I don't know. We just had a little camcorder and put it together. But I think that was kind of a thing that maybe was missing a little bit in. A little bit was like this visual aspect of like a fun band and funny bands and these bands that just don't give a shit and do stuff like that, and we just kind of came out of nowhere and started doing it, and people seem to like it.
You said it was 8 minutes long, and I think it was very cool because 8 minutes video, it doesn't look like very professional and cut to be on TV. It looks like really handmade video from a band,
Yeah.
which really shows personality, and it really helped you. I think it was
Yeah.
purely genius, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
And how much time did it take, from the first contact with the labels until you signed with
Island Records.
with Island Records? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we started like showcasing in front of these labels in the fall, and then or like late summer, and we didn't sign till December 12th of that year. So because once it's the music business, everything it has to go through lawyers and managers and all this stuff. So once we decided we wanted to sign with Island, it still took weeks and weeks and weeks of contract negotiations. So it's nothing's. It wasn't easy and it wasn't fast.
And
But
it's not usual for a teenager. I think it's very curious and very interesting thing when you're like a very young person, 18, 19 years old, and you're negotiating with producers. I don't even know how it feels like.
yeah, we are very lucky that we had like good managers around us and good lawyers because we were 19 and Steve was 18. So I mean, we knew nothing about that kind of stuff. And we're lucky that we didn't, just get ripped off or whatever. We had a really good lawyer, we had a really good manager who knew how to deal with contracts.
So, did you tour the country before you signed, or if you didn't, how your tours changed with actually getting on a label?
Yeah, we would do like mostly just within like a 4 hour radius of our hometown. We never went really. We didn't go into the U.S. before we signed, and we didn't go across Canada either. We just kind of stuck to like the Toronto area. Within a few hours, we had a van, and we just drove around and played. But nothing super extensive. We were still in high school.
Yeah, and how were the audiences in other places where you actually went? Because in our region, when you go to some other places beside your hometown, well, audiences are much more prone to like you, for example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like everywhere. When we started out, every time we went to a new place, no one knew who we were. So it was just forever trying to win people over, forever and ever and ever and ever. It seemed like it took forever. Every show you'd show up, you'd play, and you'd win a couple fans, and they'd buy a couple albums off the stage, and then you go to the next city, and you're like, okay, well, we got to do this again. You're trying to win over people constantly, and I mean that was the fun part about being in a young band and starting out is trying every night to win people over, and then you wonder like, oh, how many CDs did we sell tonight? And then you knew how well your band did by how many CDs you sold that night.
So in Canada, you're proving yourself outside, while in Russia, you're proving yourself home, right? I get it, right?
Kinda. So,
Okay.
when you actually started touring in the US and your early years of touring, did it actually look like what TV shows us and crazy parties? I don't know.
Oh, so like all those videos, were they real?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I actually started working on translating one of your bits recently. One of your early touring bits, and yeah, those kind of your parties were really crazy.
We were just taking everything we had and just like going for it. We would party every day, and yeah, it was fun.
Well,
And it's still fun, but just a different way.
I don't know about Alexei, but you're making me jealous.
Oh man, you've been a party guy all your life, right? Even
Yeah,
when you were at school. Okay, so it comes natural to you.
yeah, I guess so.
Cool. It's really cool.
So speaking of touring, can you actually recall the worst concerts and the best one maybe? Uh, let's not speak about
Worst?
yeah,
The worst?
the worst concert you've had.
The worst concert we've had. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I remember one time we were touring in, I guess, the year 2000. We were opening for this band from the U.S., and it was a festival, and we had to go on at noon. No one knew who we were,
Yeah.
and we went to go on at noon, and I'm not kidding, but there was not one person there, not one, not even one person.
Well, there must be a sound guy.
A supply tour there, you know.
There was our sound guy because we had our own sound guy, and that was all. We only had he was a sound guy and tour manager, and there was no fans. The doors were open, and not one person watched us. We played a whole half-hour set. Not one person in the whole field. It was a field too.
Wow.
What did you say to each other after that?
We actually we had a lot of fun actually playing because we were laughing the whole time.
That's cool, really.
You know, it was basically a glorified practice.
Yeah, that's what we call them. The same name.
You know tell about this practice.
Yeah, I've had a couple of gigs like that.
Yeah, it happens.
So when you actually came to Russia, did Russia actually subvert your expectations? I mean, I don't know what typical picture, what an average American,
Canadian.
what average Canadian thinks when he thinks about Russia. But when you actually came here, what were expectations and
what was the reality?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only thing I remember thinking about Russia, the only thing I really knew about Russia was I knew the sightseeing and it was going to be good, like the history of everything, all the old buildings. So I was really excited to go, look at all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I knew because I was such a big hockey fan growing up, so I knew a lot about Russian hockey players like Sergei Fedorov and the Red Army team and all those like great Konstantinov and all the great Russian hockey players that I used to watch play with the Detroit Red Wings growing up, and that was my favorite team. So other than that, like I didn't really know of too many Russian bands, and I had no idea what the Russian audience was going to be like. But the reality was playing in Moscow for the first time. It was insane. Like it's pretty much one of the craziest crowds we've ever played in front of. The Russian, because the other thing, like you're allowed to light off the flares in the audience and the whole thing, and everywhere else that's illegal. you can't light off flares in an audience anywhere else in the world, really. And just the response to the songs and how excited the Russian audience was for us to be there, and how many people showed up to our first show ever there. There's like 5,000 people. It was the first time we ever played there. So it was exciting. I loved it. And we've been back a bunch of times since, but that first time was pretty cool.
Well, I think every Russian fan now begs for the Park Life next year. For your return.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because actually a couple of my friends wanted to go this year, but you know how that turned out.
Yeah.
So, how touring life actually changed with years? Maybe how much partying do you still have during now?
He's very concerned about it.
Well, yeah, it still happens, but Derek's sober now, and Our drummer doesn't really drink all that much. Tom and I still drink. Dave doesn't really drink all that much. So, it's slowed down for sure. But there'll be nights where, um, we go out and party pretty hard, but it's not as frequent as it used to be. We're also like all in our 40s now. So it's a little bit, you wake up with a little bit more hungover than you used to be. Plus, I just, we can't do it on the same pace we used to do it. We were in our early 20s when we were doing all that crazy stuff, drinking every night and drugs and the whole thing. It was like it would be too much for us right now. And I'm kind of thankful that doesn't happen as much anymore.
So you actually kind of grown up a little bit, and I don't know, maybe you got all the excitement out of these kind of pleasures. And
yeah, I think what is the exciting thing for us now is like the shows are more focused for us. Back then it was like, yeah, well, we're gonna play, don't worry, we'll play. But it was like, oh, but where's the after party? So it was we are so concerned about the party and what we're drinking and what we're doing after, and then you wake up the next day feeling really shitty, and you're like, oh man, now I got to play another show, and so you're spending all day trying to get over your hangover because you got to play another show. So there's still hangover days. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as frequent.
But guys, you were also you always were a tight band. I don't think that you've had some concerts where your music fell apart. Maybe NoFX has a really great ethos about them that they can't play live at all. But you guys, you were tight back then when you were drinking, partying every day, and you're tight now. You're playing really tight now.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I can think of a couple shows that went off the rails a little bit. I have a couple recordings where I'm like, whoa, shit, we sucked. But yeah, for the most part, I think we handled it pretty good.
Okay, so let's talk about maybe a writing process. That's what I am really interested in because I do write a little bit. So, and how actually do you write? I know that Derek writes most of the stuff, and how the process really goes. Maybe Derek comes with a song, and you guys, he just plays on acoustic, maybe strums some chords, and then you together as a band try to arrange it into something more a final product.
Sort of. It's more like Derek will always have like the initial riff or some chords and a melody, and he'll kind of put it together in a more structured demo. Like pretty much electric all the time, not really acoustic unless it's going to be a slow song. And then he just kind of sends the demos around to us, and then I'll just kind of put some bass on it, and then we'll get together as a full band and kind of work out little stuff with the songs, and like if an arrangement has to be switched a little bit, we'll all kind of work on it together. But for the most part, the melodies and the riffs are in place from Derek, unless one of us comes up with a riff that Derek likes or something like that. And we all kind of do our own thing. Like Derek will leave a little section and be like, "God, Dave, I want a solo here," and Dave will write a solo. And he'll leave out the bass, and I'll just play some bass over it. And that's kind of how it's always been with our band.
Well, that's kind of a very structured, organized approach.
Yeah.
And another thing that I'm really interested in, how your music changed, how actually your songs changed when you started working with a producer. How much input did did producer actually
What about his impact on your
Yeah.
Yeah. How much impact did he actually?
produce?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I mean with the first record, Jerry Finn, who was a blast to work with, um, he had some input on our songs, but for the most part, a lot of those songs that we recorded with Jerry were kind of done that way. And I think Jerry's contribution to the whole record was mostly about how like making it fun in the studio and having our spirits up and us having a good time, which ended up coming out in the songs. And, fun, upbeat, and you could tell like recording that album. When I listen to that album, I can hear like the fun in that album and how awesome the recording experience was. And then he also had like the best gear. Like he had the amazing guitars and amps and all this other stuff. And we did a lot of pre-production with Jerry, but Jerry wasn't really a musician. He
Mm-hmm.
was he couldn't really play guitar or bass, but he just knew how to get performances out of people and how to get songs to a place and not overproduce them and not just switch things because he wanted to switch things. If he thought the song was good when we brought it to him, he would just leave it. And I think that's a really amazing quality in a producer is knowing when to just leave it as is and not just switch it because you're paid to switch it.
Well,
How do you
guys,
think?
at such a young age, you were actually great arrangers then, because I don't know if you actually did the arrangements yourself. That's great achievement because it's really fun to listen to your debut album. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, and they're pretty simple arrangements, but I think they work for those songs and they work for that album.
yeah. Um, so
I also wonder about your producer. How do you think what makes a good producer? You said he wasn't a musician, but he knew how to make a music sound good. So, what makes a good
Yeah,
producer? How to become one?
I I think there's a lot of different things. With a producer, you kind of look for someone who you can talk to about music, not just like get in and start switching your songs around, but like someone you can actually like talk about music and let them know. A producer really is there to facilitate what you want out of your band and what you want out of your album.
mhm.
And producer's job is to take that vision and execute it and get where the band's going and take it further than probably the band even thought they could go. Um, and then there's also producers that will actually pick up a guitar and start like writing stuff with the band and switch things all around. And so there's different kinds of producers. I kind of like the producer that will kind of do a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the take I do take when I produce a band is I like to talk to the band constantly about music and what they're after, what their influences are, what they want it to sound like, and all this kind of stuff. But also I play music, so I can actually pick up a guitar and say like, well, that riff's cool, but what if you just tweaked it like this?
Mm-hmm.
And switched it to be like this. That could maybe be a little bit better. Or what if the drum pattern was kind of like this, and you kind of play them something.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of take that approach when I produce bands, kind of doing both things. But there's some producers that can't play an instrument, but are some of the best producers in the world.
You said you yourself as a producer, you mentioned just drums, you mentioned guitar riffs, and it feels like you believe that music is more important to the whole vibe, more important than lyrics. Is it true or it's not so?
No, I think lyrics are very, very important. Because if you have the best melody in the world, but you don't have the lyric that connects with the listener or connects with you, then it's all it's not going to be as good. You need that lyric that connects with the audience and kind of like and the lyric that's believable when you're singing it. Something that when the listener listens
Mm-hmm.
back and you're singing that lyric, the listener believes in you. So it's very important.
Well, and do you guys actually think when you writing a new album? do you actually think that some fans, when you're writing an album and you're going for a new vibe, maybe, uh, do you actually think that some of your audience may not like it? As maybe some fans, I don't know. And I know people who say that first albums of that band were better than the later ones.
Yeah.
So how do you actually think about it, or you just writing music?
Yeah, it's tough now to kind of gauge your music towards what you think people are gonna like. You always, in my opinion, and I think this speaks for our whole band, is you just have to play music you like and love, and you can't start thinking in your mind, well, we can't do a heavy album because our fans aren't gonna like the heavy album. Let's do a poppy album. Maybe our fans will like the poppy album. Then you're just you're going around in circles forever. You just have to play what you love. Yeah, you have to play what you love, and if it's believable, if you're playing with it and you like it, and it'll become believable and it'll become better, and chances are your fans will like it because it's believable and you're not just doing something to do it because you think they like it. And that's kind of been our mentality for the last as long as I can remember now.
I mean, yeah, you can't please everyone.
You can't please everyone, but you can please yourself.
That's the motto I follow every morning.
Okay. Oh man, it was enough,
Hey.
So let's talk about your own projects. Maybe can you tell us about Operation MD, and do you want to, I don't know, make another album, or where do you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, that would just started out as something fun with me and Todd Morse. He plays in The Offspring now. But yeah, we did 2 albums. We've done a couple singles. And he actually just messaged me the other day and asked if I wanted to do some more stuff. And I was like, yeah, I mean, we might as well. We got the time. I don't know if we'll ever do like a whole album again, because it just seems like sometimes whole albums, it just kind of goes for nothing with bands like this, like the side bands. You don't really need to make a whole album. You can make an EP or a couple singles and release them every few months. It's a lot of time and energy to do a whole album for a side project. So I don't know. I think we're definitely going to be doing some more songs. Because the Operation MD has been really fun I think for both of us.
Well, and that's what matters actually. If you have fun, you didn't waste your time.
So, yeah, exactly.
And maybe kind of a simpler question: what's your favorite bass line? What bass line you enjoy playing the most?
Oh,
it may be your song. It may be, I don't know, song of some other artist.
Well, I think well, in our set, I mean, there's also Welcome to Hell from the Chuck album has a bass solo in it, so that's probably my
everyone
favorite.
Loves a bass solo.
Who doesn't like a bass solo? So that comes to mind just because it's fun and really fast, and it's just a bass solo. So
yeah. I gotcha. So, a lot of my actually friends speak of something that is defined as a Canadian sound. They define it as they may listen to a band and don't know the origin of the band, but just by listening to it, they can somehow find out that they are from Canada.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's actually a thing, a Canadian sound? And maybe um, what do you think are the defining characteristics of it? Maybe the complexity or the melodic content.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I think Canada does have a sound. To me, anyway, because I grew up here. But if I listen to like this Canadian bands like the Tragically Hip or Sam Roberts or the Trews, to me they all have like Canadian sounds, um, and I can't really figure out why. I think it's just maybe it's just because I don't know how other people can identify that, because it's hard for me to pinpoint why they sound Canadian to, but they just, to me, it's just because I grew up with it and I've heard it on the radio so many times, that they just, there's those bands, and there's more, tons more bands, but they're just very Canadian sounding, which is, it's a great thing to have like the Canadian sound. I think, I just don't know what it is. I don't know what makes it Canadian.
I believe it does exist. It's funny. I think that it's easy to identify your country's sound, right? You're talking about Canadian sound, but me,
Yeah.
oftentimes I hear Russian music, Russian people playing music with English lyrics, and I am not even sure about is it Russian, is it from what country it is. But I have one, like, I don't know how it works, but whenever I hear Romanian pop music, Romanian pop music, I always know it's from Romania. I
Yeah.
don't know. I never been in Romania. I don't know Romanian people, but they have this pop culture vibe. It does
Yeah.
exist. So maybe there's something
Yeah.
about it with Canadian stuff.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
I was gonna say, I always thought Sum 41 we had a like more of an American sound, but I don't know.
Maybe
I
I
don't know.
think
Maybe.
Canadian bands are a little bit more technical, a little bit more tighter sounding. Uh, Actually, one of the recent bands I enjoyed from Canada is Pop. They really they have those complex how to say it.
I think it's about complexity.
Complex harmonies.
Okay,
Yeah.
so maybe
Pop.
Pop. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good band. Yeah.
They recently
Yeah.
dropped.
See, they don't sound Canadian to me.
Yeah. Why so?
They kind of sounded American to me, like because they're it's got that like screamy, chanty.
I think that people think that Canadian music is more intricate, and the Canadian audience is more intricate, and it can be true because the American audience it's so big and so different at the same time, and it's so easy to make them. It's so it's the opposite. It's difficult to make them happy, and you have to simplify the music to make it work in the US. And in Canada, you can go your own way and make the music you really like, even if it's more intricate.
Yeah, I think in America there's so much, there's so many bands, there's so many people, attention spans are so low. So yeah, I mean there is some some commercial stuff in Canada too, and in America that's pretty watered down.
Well, I actually like U.S. country music,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I think
Taylor
I think
Swift?
a lot of American people actually think it sucks.
What I really like about Americans, maybe I am wrong, and you're gonna tell me if I am, but I know that I think they really like their old music. For example, in Russia, for people who listen to our classics, those people are not insulted, not ignored, but it's you're kind of a boomer guy. You're not into the modern culture. But I heard that in America they really adore people like Bruce Springsteen. They like he's still a superstar. He can have a multi-thousand concert anytime he wants, except COVID-19 time, and it makes me respect the nation for. He's really cool. I like Springsteen.
Yeah, it's true. I think America, the majority of Americans like American music. They like American country music. They like the Americans like their own music for sure. But then you'll get like the alternative rock kids that like English music, and they like, other stuff. But you'll get in like Central America and Southern America, they like American music.
Yeah. Well, speaking of national heritage, do you know any Russian bands maybe that you particularly like?
Particularly, it's
I mean,
as if you knew so many Russian bands, and particularly you might have liked a few of them. Do you know any of them?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who. I always forget who opens for us when we play in like Moscow and stuff like that.
We'll cut that.
They hope you do.
That's a joke.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you told me a couple bands, I'd probably know, because there was a one band that kept opening for us in Moscow.
Maybe.
And they were good.
Tarakаны, maybe.
Yeah, I can't remember. They're kind of like pop punky.
I need to consult my number one fan. Who opened for Sum 41?
What?
На разогреве кто?
Кто на разогреве выступал Sum 41?
В России?
Да.
Это в Екатеринбурге концы были, группа «Нефть», этот московские парни. Блин, я забыл тоже, как они.
Well, it turned out that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Whoever.
I remember they had like cheerleaders on stage and stuff.
You're a visual guy too.
Well,
yeah.
So, let's make another smooth transition. Well, we actually, Dennis was again the mastermind behind the translation of your documentary about Congo. So maybe a year ago or so, we translated it, and we translated it for fans, and in the end credits there was a message that Sum 41 actually sponsored a school or something like it, like that, in Congo, reconstruction of school. So
we built a school.
Do you still follow the situation in Congo? And
do you somehow the African music? I do.
Do you somehow try to help? Try to, I don't know, to help them.
Yeah. We just in the fall. Yeah, the Congo. I mean, since we went there, it hasn't gotten any better. The hope was that it would get better, and we would raise awareness and all this other stuff. But it's actually hasn't gotten better. But in the fall, we went over there with War Child Canada, which was like this charity organization that does stuff over there. And so in the fall, we decided to team up with them again. And on our American tour, every dollar from every ticket sold, we gave to War Child. And they were going to go spend it how they saw fit in the Congo.
Oh, that's really thoughtful.
Yeah.
So, in the documentary, there was a scene when soldiers, rebel soldiers, were assaulting the hotel that you were in. And how that moment actually affected your perception of life itself, and maybe you started care more for where you are now, for how you spend time.
Did you start to appreciate life more than before?
Because it's such a life and death experience.
Yeah, it's unique. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. It was one of those things where you always saw it on TV, and like you watched, I grew up on war movies, Rambo and Commando and Schwarzenegger movies. But it's something when you're in it, you realize like how unpredictable it is and how helpless you are and how you can't change the outcome of it. So it's frightening, and I think I always had a pretty good appreciation on life and for what I had. I think I walked away from that whole experience being very, very sad for the people who live in those countries, more than I ever had before. You always hear about stuff that's going over on in the Middle East and Africa and all this stuff, and it's just always on the news, and you're just seeing it on TV. But to see it firsthand, and then to be removed from it, I really just felt very sad for all the people that were not lucky enough like we were to be able to leave the situation. They had to just stay there. That's where they live. They had to still go through all this war, and they're still there. And yeah, so I think that's what I took away. It was just sadness for the people I had.
Yeah, when you actually
Could-
go, we have some internet issues. So when you actually go back and try to live a normal life, I think it's kind of hard to that, because you know that those people there suffering, and here you are living your everyday life. Kind of,
Yeah.
you don't have anyone who's trying to shoot you every day.
I don't think.
Yeah, hopefully not.
In
Hopefully
Canada,
not.
hopefully not.
Yeah,
Not in the
yeah.
US.
Well, maybe if someone in Canada tries to shoot you, then they will first ask you if that's okay.
And then apologize for it after.
Yeah.
What do you think about jokes about Canada? You know that
love
American
it.
people, you love it. What's your favorite joke about Canadian people?
Yeah, I love it. I think it's funny because most of the stuff that Americans joke about Canadians, we do that joke about, on South Park, and it's actually true.
It's really nice. It's really nice.
So I'm really interested who actually came up with an idea to name the album before Chuck, after Chuck. Sorry.
That was something that we came up with during when we were in the war situation, and we told him, we just said, if you get us, we just joked about it, like if you get us out of here alive, the next album's gonna be named after you. He was like, okay, and then he got us out alive. So we're like, okay, next album's called Chuck.
Well, you delivered on the promise.
I did, yeah, we did.
Did he know about that? Did you have any contact since then?
Yeah, he came to because he lives on the west coast of Canada, so we came through there a couple times, and he came to the shows.
That's really cool. It's like lifetime story, I think, for this guy.
Really. Yeah, I mean, and we also
amazing.
Chuck went gold in Canada, so we gave him a plaque. So yeah.
I am the Chuck, he'll always say.
Yeah,
the
I'm
Chuck.
the Chuck.
The Chuck, yeah.
I'm the Chuck.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, let's maybe talk about your about the reunion with Dave. How actually it's I mean, who was the initiator, and was it what was your feelings, because you weren't playing with each other for quite some time, and having him back, I mean, there's a lot to take in.
Yeah, I mean, because he was such an old friend from high school, we'd known him for so long. It's like, it's just having an old friend back in the band. It was a pretty simple transition for me anyway, and I think for Derek as well, just because we had known him so well. And yeah, I mean, he's such a great guitar player. So, having him and Tom be able to do most of the guitar playing now, and all the leads and all the solos, it just makes the band that much better. So yeah, I mean, really, honestly, it was a pretty easy transition having him back.
Well, and how did you feel when he left the band before that?
I was pretty sad about that, because that was, we'd done everything up until that point as like four people, like, trying to conquer the world together, as kids, and we're all in this, like, gang together, and then to have one of those guys leave was kind of
Mm-hmm.
upsetting, and I didn't really understand it at the time. I understand it better now, but yeah, that sucked. I didn't like that.
Well, that's quite understandable. And
Yeah. I have to say, I have a couple minutes left just because I got to go pick my kids up from school.
oh,
sure.
okay.
So
Let's
maybe do like one more question or something. And
let's wrap it up then. Yes, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Do your kids like your music?
What's that?
Do your kids like your music? And what's their
Yeah,
favorite song?
My son is turning 6 in December, and he
Can
loves
start.
us. He loves Sum 41. Like, his favorite song is In Too Deep, and he could sing the whole song back to front. And yeah, he only wants to, on YouTube, he wants to watch daddy's music videos.
Mhm.
So sweet.
Yeah,
So
it's
cool,
cool.
really. Does
Yeah,
he
it's
play any
awesome.
music?
Well,
Do
Does
train
he?
him?
let's see when he turns 18.
He's a
Or maybe-
drummer
he's
already.
He's actually a great drummer for a 5-year-old. He can play on time.
Wow.
Yeah,
Even
it's
our
pretty
drummer
good.
can play on time. And he's maybe 4 times as old.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe it will be Psalm 41
well,
next gen.
So we're not going to keep you here any longer. So thanks for actually attending. Thanks for getting in touch with us.
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah.
pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Yeah. So
We hope to see you in Russia as soon, and see you everywhere as soon as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You guys stay safe.
Thank you very much.
yeah, we're in the basement now. So
It's not a joke. It's not a
yeah,
joke.
it's not a joke. So,
But we'll get out of here, I hope.
You'll get
I hope.
get